Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Tuesday, March 10th, 2021. And look who it is. It's me, David Menzies, and Sheila, the she-devil Gunn Reid. I know what you're saying. Where's Ezra? Well, yep. Ezra is the top-notch talent, but he is so super busy, he couldn't come in and do the show today. So, like a couple of backup goalies, Sheila and I are your co-hosts for today's show. And as they say at the circus, no refunds. Sheila, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, especially since it's Wednesday and not Tuesday. And you just told all these nice people that it's Tuesday. Tuesday wouldn't be abnormal for you and I to be hosting the show, but it is indeed Wednesday. And I'm doing great. I am in Bashaw, Alberta, so I'm back in central Alberta on a story. But it does take two other rebels to make up for one Ezra Levant. So that's why I'm here. And I am actually parked at Heritage Park in beautiful downtown Bashaw, Alberta. And to the left of me is an antique fire truck, as we tend to do in small town Alberta. We like to make antique trucks landmarks. So that's what I'm doing today.
Well, Sheila, thank you so much for correcting me about that fake news that I dispensed, this being a Wednesday, not a Tuesday. I'm so acclimatized to us on Tuesdays and Thursdays filling in for Ezra. And what's that saying again about old tricks and new dogs or something like that?
We should tell everybody what we're doing here right now before we get completely off the rails. This is the Wednesday Rebel News live stream. Used to just be on Friday, just hosted by Ezra Levant. But then the pandemic struck and everybody got grounded. Everybody moved to working remotely from home. So we thought, you know what? There's more news than ever, despite what the CBC would have you believe with their complete cessation of covering local news. We thought there's more things than ever to talk about, and sometimes those things are best spoken of spontaneously without benefit of a heavily produced video. So the daily live stream was born. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday today, Thursday, and Friday. Gives David and I a chance to interact with each other when we normally host on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Gives our viewers a chance to interact with each other, which is something that they do not allow you to do in the mainstream media. They have their comment sections closed. They don't want people talking to each other. They don't want people talking to them. They don't want to hear criticism at all. And it gives our viewers a chance to do something, again, that you can't do with the mainstream media, and that is choose to support the work that we do. The mainstream media wants Justin Trudeau to just reach into your pocket and give them your money, even though you would never willingly pay for whatever product that they are producing. I'm looking at you, Huffington Post. Maybe we should talk about that. That's kind of fun. Anywho, you can support the work that we do. If you see something worth supporting here on Rebel News, now's your chance. You can throw it in something called a super chat. If you go to the bottom of the live chat, there's a little dollar sign. Just click on that. The more money you give, the more characters you get. It'll append your comment in a super chat, and Justin will send it to me in WhatsApp, and David and I will do our best to address whatever it is that you have to say on air, whether it's a comment, a question, a story idea, or even constructive criticism. It's your show. Just throw it in a super chat.
And you know, folks, Sheila is so right about how the mainstream media operates. They adore your money. Actually, I don't think they adore it, Sheila. I think they feel entitled to it. There's no appreciation of it. They expect to be fed like some surly house cat. But when it comes to listening to your opinions, you scroll down so often, don't you, Sheila? And what do you see? That one sentence, comments for this article have been disabled. Have we ever done that in the history of Rebel News? I mean, it is astonishing how they want your money, don't want to hear your opinion, and carry on. It's such grotesque entitlement.
They do it on their YouTube channels too. Yep. You go to tell them how awful they are on their YouTube channel, and you're like, you can't. You just can't. And it's. I think it prevents them from learning that nobody likes them. They think that, because they're not getting negative feedback, that what they're producing is just wonderful and everybody likes it. But there's no opportunity for feedback. So there's none of that market correction that they really need. They're not hearing from the customer, and Justin Trudeau gives them money even when they're failing. So they just continue to do the same thing over and over again, and their company continues to fail, which is fine by them because the taxpayer just keeps bailing them out.
Sheila, I take an opposite tact. I think members of the mainstream media, many of them, hate common people, hate the average Joe and Jane. And I really saw that on display going back to late November, Adamson Barbecue, the Great Canadian Barbecue Rebellion that lasted for 3 days. Only us and our friend Joe Warmington of the Toronto Sun were allowed onto the Adamson Barbecue property by owner Adam Skelly. And all the media was behind the ditch with their live eyes and their telephoto lenses and what have you.
Love it.
And the way they were reporting that story, it wasn't, oh, we're up with freedom. It was, come on, cops, what are you going to do? Well, why are you letting this typhoid Mary carry on his restaurant? Meanwhile, 300 meters behind them is a Costco jammed to the gills with its own food service facility still operating because suddenly that's a necessity. So, Sheila, I think because so many of us don't sing from their song sheet, they hate us. They really do, but not so much that they'll turn down our money, right?
That reminds me of a gem that was once published in the now defunct Huffington Post Canada. And it was, maybe Justin can dig it up. I know that this is sort of spontaneous. We didn't plan for this, but how could we not talk about the failure that is Huffington Post Canada? They are no longer publishing. They unionized at the end of February and bragged about it. And then guess what? They're no longer publishing content at all. Permanently disabled as of March 12th. They're grateful for your support and readership. The thing is, nobody supported them and nobody read them, which is why they're now defunct. They were bought by BuzzFeed, which publishes, I don't know, listicles these days, and then closed because I guess they weren't even fluffy enough and left-wing enough for BuzzFeed. But I remember the Adamson Barbecue article published by Huffington Post. And Justin, I think I tweeted it saying something akin to, it's going to be sad to see gems like this no longer published by Huffington Post. And it was accusing, I guess, the whole Adamson, hard to believe this Huffington Post gold is gone forever. Analysis to see white privilege in action, look to Toronto's Adamson Barbecue debacle. What about any of that was white privilege? He was being hauled away, if you look, by two officers of color. They called the riot squad in on a barbecue place. They could not have been more heavy-handed if they tried. And somehow the lunatics at Huffington Post thought this was that Adamson Barbecue was getting favorable treatment. The guy's being frog marched away in handcuffs. It's hard to believe. It's hard to imagine the same outcome if Adam Skelly were a black or brown person, is what they claimed. I don't know how it could have gotten worse for him.
Sheila, that was indeed the jump the shark moment for Huffington Post Canada. If a restaurant owner is tackled, arrested, handcuffed, thrown into a paddy wagon, spends a day in jail, has his business shut down, has his other business shut down on some other unrelated charges, and is then sent a bill for $187,000 for the law enforcement costs. If that is white privilege, I sure as hell hate to see white discrimination, Sheila.
Well, and when you look at how the Toronto cops, the same ones who frog marched a small business owner away for just wanting to sell smoked meat, if you look how they reacted during the Black Lives Matter protests, there were no tickets issued. That was perfectly fine. The virus, I guess, breaks along party lines. And the police took a knee to what was an illegal protest. I mean, I don't care about whether or not, like for me, I think protests, knock yourself out. But every single week, those same cops are issuing tickets to the anti-lockdown protesters, and they turned a black eye to BLM. And then like the Huffington Post writes an article saying that Adam Skelly was the benefactor of white privilege. I mean,
unbelievable.
Are they hard of remembering the last year?
Oh, it's just so beautiful to see these woke virtue signaling, everything is racism journalists get the can tied to their butts. And and I got to tell you something, a little inside baseball information. About a decade ago, Sheila, I was courted to write for Huffington Post, and I submitted a couple of articles. There was more freedom then. It wasn't as radically left as it is now. And here's the thing, and I kind of get why they probably went the unionization route, although it sunk the ship. When I asked, by the way, how much do I invoice? How much per word am I supposed to charge? They went, oh, no, you see, we don't pay. And I went, excuse me? Yeah, well, it's a liability thing. You see, if we don't pay you, there's it was some convoluted, I know, Sheila, I didn't understand it either. I was talking to the lady firsthand. And so there's some sort of mechanism where I think some get paid, some don't get paid. The payment isn't the same across the board. And then I said, well, I can't write for you anymore because I got a mortgage, right? I'm not doing this out of benevolence. So it was absolutely shocking. And the excuse they gave for not paying freelancers did not make any sense in terms of this liability issue. So it's a good, and by the way, isn't Lady Huffington a billionaire or something like that?
Yeah, it's no wonder these far left-wing writers take to socialism so quickly, given that their left-wing bosses treat them like such garbage.
Yeah.
It's very fun. It's very funny. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, Huffington Post used to have a lot more freedom. I think if I remember the movie Hating Breitbart correctly, I think Andrew Breitbart helped develop the website Huffington Post before he moved on and created Breitbart and the sort of series of Breitbart silos that were originally there when that company first started. So yeah, naturally it had a more sort of free thought, free enterprise kind of view about it. But I guess the good news is Althea Raj, she could just sort of move her desk right into the Prime Minister's office and just cut out the middleman of having to write for Huffington Post first. And for me, as someone who watches the layoffs in Alberta's energy sector over and over again, I normally don't, and I want to say that I'm not celebrating these layoffs right now, but I'm having a tough time mustering up some give a damn for these people after article after article after article about telling laid off oil and gas workers, coal workers, that they could just get green jobs on the windmill farms as the future. You know what? Huffington Post journalists, have you tried getting a green job? Try getting a green job.
Yeah.
Just, that's what you wanted everybody else to do. So show us how it's done.
And one last point before we move on to more important topics, Sheila. Whether it's a green job or a non-green job, I think of my experience with Huffington Post, getting articles published but not getting payment for work for your labors. What is the word that fits that definition? Oh yeah, slavery. That's right.
Right.
So much for my white privilege with my experience with the Huffington Post. They don't even see their own hypocrisy, do they, Sheila?
Well, that's the problem. These people, these far left-wing journalists, they really should try writing for a conservative outlet because you'll get paid for your time, because we believe in the fair exchange of goods and services, and we believe that as producers of a certain content that we can sort of negotiate our value with our boss, and our boss will pay what he thinks we're worth, and it's capitalism in action. They should try it sometime, because then it doesn't amount to the slavery of Huffington Post, and even not paying people, they couldn't make a go of it. Isn't 100%. That interesting?
Well, Sheila, speaking of egregious double standards, on Saturday, like every other Saturday, there are anti-lockdown protests in the city of Toronto. I just got to reach out to Mr. Producer. Do we have any film footage, Justin, to run after I set up this story? Okay, then. So we'll show the evidence after I give my explanation. So Young Dundas Square was, which should be the heart of the city, was turned into a no man's land, violently by cops taking down truly peaceful protesters. I haven't seen not even graffiti marking monuments or city infrastructure from these people, much less vandalism or violence or tossing Molotov cocktails. So they were effectively moved from Young Dundas Square to avoid getting ticketed and arrested and incarcerated to Queen's Park, where they get ticketed, arrested, and incarcerated too. Even in the Queen's Park for the people, this is protest non grata. So on Saturday, it was very interesting. It was kind of a serendipity, Sheila. We needed an SD card, so I whipped down to the Shoppers Drug Mart near the square, and lo and behold, I saw a gathering of people with cameras, microphones, obviously some kind of media crew. And they were there in no man's land, and not only was the cop not cracking heads, there was a cop being interviewed by them, and I walked over because I wanted to see if anything would go sideways, and evidently these folks are with something called the Middle East Toronto blog, and they were interviewing the police officer about relations with the Toronto Middle East community. Hey, I'm all for that. I love this goofy little thing called freedom of the press. Yep. But you saw what they did to our cameramen, didn't you, Sheila? Trying actually to trip Efren at one point, telling us the media has been shut down, and Efren did a great job of questioning the cop. I want to please say that again on camera. You're saying no media allowed here, and he said words to the effect of, well, not media like you, but if it's CP24, in other words, the bought and paid for government mainstream media, that's okay. So anyways, there we go. There is now
Efron's fast.
Now
he's fast.
Now you see Efren, he's filming somebody, and what was, by the way, that criminal, there's a little close-up shot, folks, of the cop actually trying, his shoe comes off, actually tried to trip him. Can you imagine? That fellow there was getting arrested for what is now the egregious crime in Toronto, folks, of waving a Canadian flag. Okay? Now, later that day, so we're talking about after 4 p.m., I went down to Young Dundas Square to the subway station to pick up Sid the Kid, because we're heading to Montreal to do the church protest there. And I couldn't believe my eyes, Sheila. Look at this. These are the supporters of the Tamil Tigers, okay? The LTTE organization, which is outlawed as a terrorist group in Canada, as well as more than 30 other nations, folks. And there they were with their Tamil Tiger flag. You know, Sheila, I know we love guns, but every time I see a flag with guns on it and a halo of bullets and a vicious animal like a lion or tiger, I'm not really so sure that's a friendly flag. As you saw, folks, the Tamil Tiger supporters of a terrorist organization are right there at Young Dundas Square. No muss, no fuss. The fuzz are sitting this one out. I guess it's diversity. Yep. I guess now they believe in freedom of protest. Now, that was the subject of my monologue when I guest hosted for the Ezra Levent show yesterday, Sheila. And I can tell you, I reached out to the mayor's office, Don Pete, who used to be a journalist at the Toronto Sun. Oh boy, has he ever gone off the reservation. No callback. I reached out to Brad Ross. Brad Ross I like. He's a good guy. He's always gotten back to me, but not on this one. And I reached out by email and phone. I reached out to Connie Osborne, the spokeswoman for the Toronto Police Service. I didn't get her reply until after the recording. And basically what she said was that because the Tamil Tiger supporters were socially distancing themselves and were wearing masks, that's why there were no charges, and it is not illegal, evidently, to hold up a Tamil Tiger terrorist flag in Toronto. I just wonder if somebody were to hold up a swastika, Sheila. I wonder if the police.
David, a Proud Boys flag. Let's see what the cops would do if they held up a Proud Boys flag.
Yeah.
Swastika. horses.
Indeed. So, I mean, what kind of, this is the new normal in the new John Tory, not so improved Toronto, where a patriot waving a Canadian flag, and that was one case. There was another case a couple weeks after. This was a guy not even on Yonge Dundas Square. I don't know if we have that footage ready to go, but if we can find it, it would be great. He was across the street from Yonge Dundas Square by himself, waving a Canadian flag on a sidewalk right in front of the Eaton Centre. He got tackled. The cops turned into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line and brought this guy down hard. For what? Waving a Canadian flag? Oh, but a flag espousing terrorism? Oh, here we go, folks. Here's this fellow. I think, I'm wondering, yeah, that was the fellow by himself waving a Canadian flag. What kind of disgrace is this? And we also know, Sheila, in John Tory's Toronto, these same police officers not only ignore a Black Lives Matter protest, but they will take the knee, including the former chief. And we also know Usra Kogali, she is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Toronto, Sheila. She once put out an absolutely racist tweet. I'm going to paraphrase it. It was something along the lines of, please, Allah, please, please, please prevent me from cussing out, killing these white folks here today. Can you imagine that? She was not forced to apologize. Black Lives Matter Toronto came to her defense, and later that year, John Tory gave her the Pam McConnell Young Woman Leadership Award. She was awarded by the City of Toronto for vicious, hateful racism. Could you imagine, Sheila, a white person saying, please, God, prevent me from killing these black or brown people here today? This is the double standard we live in Toronto today. It is an absolute disgrace.
Well, and remember when pro-life women are pushed into traffic in Toronto, and they handle it, and they go about it with dignity, and they go through the court system, and you can't even get any comment from the politicians in Toronto, let alone the fact that, put aside the fact that these are pro-life women, but these are women being pushed into traffic for their political views and their religious views. Yep. And you can't get a comment from John Tory about that. And yet he honors this racist woman with this award. And for what? What has she contributed to Toronto, truly, except for sowing the seeds of division?
It is appalling. And of course, you're talking about Jordan Hunt. And not only do we not get a comment, if you can imagine, Sheila, until after the trial, there was a publication ban to protect, this poor little soy boy who's really tough when it comes to going after women protesting that are pro-life, some of whom happen to be pregnant when he does a roundhouse kick to them. But when I confront him outside Old City Hall, this guy goes into a little tizzy doing figure eights to get away from me. Not so tough when it's mano a mano. And for this kind of person, he is worthy of a publication ban as though he's the victim? Give me a break.
My offer still stands. Dion Buse or Jordan Hunt, if they want to do a little foxy boxing for charity, for a pro-life charity, something that helps mothers and babies in need, I'll step into the ring with them. I would love to.
Oh, Sheila,
but for charity.
You would slaughter them. We in the lunchroom, we have that picture of you with Kian in a headlock. And Kian could knock these guys off easy. But yeah, imagine that, Dion Buse versus Jordan Hunt. You know what that reminds me of is the original Predator versus Aliens movie. The tagline was, no matter who wins, we lose.
Can't everybody lose? Can't everybody just lose there?
Oh, my goodness. So, Sheila, I'm sure we must have a super chat or two by now.
Oh, we definitely do. And thank you to everybody who's super chatting. Just to make it clear, David and I consistently get more super chats than the boss when we host. And that's because we have such great people who tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if we could have some of those Tuesdays and Thursdays, people who are watching now, keep a good thing going, that would really make David and I look really great.
Do you know what? This is the first I heard. I didn't know we got more. Maybe Ezra gets the higher price super chats. Is that how it works? Because I thought, no?
I was talking to Justin about this yesterday, and he said Ezra forgets to mention what he's doing and what the live stream is all about, and then they get to 10 minutes left in the show. He hasn't read any super chats, and anybody who was going to super chat doesn't see the point. So I think that's why it's always important to get to these super chats. I like the super chats better than the stories we're going to talk about, because I like talking to the people.
Well, I want to get some source verification of it's coming from Justin. You know what Justin did to me yesterday, Sheila? I was in the parking lot. I took Ezra's parking space, the CEO spot. You know, when the cat's away, the mice will play. And Justin comes out, brandishing his cell phone, taking some video evidence of me parking in that spot to show the boss when he comes in later today, no doubt. This is what I have to deal with here, Sheila. You're so lucky you're up in the hinterland.
Next time, Justin should just come out and unplug your car and walk past it with an ice cream so it never starts again.
Well, that's when I look into the camera like Bugs Bunny and say that famous phrase, of course you know, folks, this means war.
Okay, let's get to these super chats. Yeah, because we're 26 minutes into the show. Kane Enmark gives us $5. Today is Shout Out to Justin Day. Come on, Rebels.
There he goes.
There it is.
Oh, he's so giddy now. Beautiful.
I know. Justin deserves a day. He puts up with a lot. A lot.
He puts up with a lot. What? Okay, keep going.
Pink Phoenix Nails gives us $2. Shout out to Justin for sure.
Oh. These have to be family members. I'm not buying this.
I've met Kane and I've met Catherine from Pink Phoenix Nails. They don't know each other. They definitely don't know Justin.
Well, they are supporting a parking space Karen. I just want people to know that, with this tattletale that I took the boss's spot. And what was wrong with that? There's no one else taking the spot. I mean, it's like sacred or something.
I don't know. Just in time gives us $6.99. Hey, Sheila, where do you think Her Royal Majesty Queen Elizabeth's handbag is around Harry and his wife now? Still can't believe he would slander his family like that. Her handbag. I can't believe I know as much about the royal family and their fashion rules as I do, because I follow no fashion rules on my own. But her handbag, everybody thinks oh, what's in the Queen's handbag? What does she need a purse for? It's not like she needs a cell phone. She doesn't drive. Someone drives her, and for everything she needs, one of her helpers has it. Her handbag it's like a coded device to communicate how she's feeling and what she wants to do to the people around her. Now, I think I forget the rules, but I think if she puts her handbag on the table, she wants to leave right away.
Oh.
If she puts it on the ground, and I could have these reversed because, again, I don't follow any fashion rules. But I know that her purse is a coded signal device. If she puts it on the ground, I think it's that she doesn't like the conversation that she's in and she wants to get out of there right away. So, yeah, that's a great question about the handbag.
You know what? That is fascinating, Sheila. But if I had to wager a guess of what's in that handbag, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a screwdriver, a couple of wrenches, because as you mentioned the other day, and it's true, folks, this queen was doing mechanical repairs on Jeeps during the Second World War. I mean, she's that accomplished. And of course, I don't think she could work on something as complicated as my plug-in hybrid. But if it's an old school Jeep, yeah, sure, I think she could fix it, even today.
I know a little bit more about the Queen's fashion choices too. The handle on her purse is extra long so that it doesn't get in the way when she's shaking hands with people, because that's really important to her. She never wears dark colors in public appearances because she says she must be seen to be believed. As in, she feels that if people are waiting for hours to see me, they have to be able to spot me easily. And so she always wears bright colors. I think yellow is her happy color. How do I know all this stuff? Oh, and Her umbrellas are always transparent because, again, it's rainy in the UK, and she doesn't want her subjects who have waited for hours upon hours to see her to just see an umbrella. She wants them to see her because that's what they came for. What a nice
folks,
lady.
Hands up, everybody out there who wants Sheila Gunn Reid to be our new Buckingham Palace correspondent.
They're not allowed to wear open-toed shoes either. I know that.
Look at this.
And Kate liked, before she was married, to wear wedges, like wedge heels, and the Queen hates those. So she gave them up because Kate follows the rules, unlike her hideous sister-in-law. Anyways, enough about the royal family. I got a lot of hate yesterday, by the way, for not wanting the end of the monarchy. However, if the monarchy does end, I just don't want it to be at the hands of Meghan and Harry. Yeah. But I kind of like them. I find them kind of interesting. And if people don't like that, that's okay, because we're conservatives and we're allowed to think different things about different issues without canceling each other.
And Sheila, like I said when we discussed this, I'm not the kind of royal family fan that I'm going to stand for hours in the hot August sun to get a glimpse of a queen waving as she goes down a parade down Yonge Street. However, having said that, in the cancel culture we live in, we see so many of our traditions, so much of our heritage. I mean, for goodness sakes, go to Queen's Park, folks. Sir John A. Macdonald, our founding prime minister, is in a wooden coffin with a garbage bag over his head because that statue offends Black Lives Matter supporters. So I'm sick and tired of seeing everything canceled and erased. And that's why I support the royal family being part of our tradition and heritage, Sheila.
Yes. Yeah. I fully agree with that. People would just like to see them disappear. And if they do, so be it. But I just don't want it to come at the hands of cancel culture and wokeism.
Yes.
EJ gives us $5. I don't see a super chat, but then he gives us another one and says, as Rush Limbaugh used to call it, the Huffington Post. Yeah. Rush had some great names, and David, you and I know Mark Levin has some great names for some of the other mainstream media outlets like the Washington Compost and things like that. Yeah,
and the New York Slimes. Yeah. So I guess we can call the Huffington Post, HR Puffin stuff. that cartoon's probably before your time, but, as HR used to like to say, keep those cards and letters coming, folks.
What's the other one? LSD? Is it? That's what it's
called. Oh, yeah, like MSN LSD.
Yeah.
I love it.
He's so great. The Rogues Tavern gives us $5. The work Rebel does is inspirational and gets lots of attention everywhere. Keep it up. Sheila is always an inspiration. David needs a white cowboy hat.
You know what? I'm not averse to that. The spring will be on us before you know it. Sheila, if I go to Alberta, I'd only buy a cowboy hat in a place like Alberta or down South Texas, of course. Yeah. Like, what is the cowboy hat to get?
Well, if you're going to Calgary, I guess it's the white hat. Like a Stetson hat is great.
But would I be accused of cultural appropriation? Because, I did try to ride a bull in Smoky Lake back in 1985. I ended up in the hospital, of course, folks. Oscar was his name. It was my attempt at George Plimpton-style journalism, and I think next time I do that, it'll be a game of croquet or something like that. So, that's the only time I wore a cowboy hat. Some real cowboy put it on my noggin. But yeah, I'm open to suggestions because I don't know anything about cowboy hats. Does it have to be white? It's kind of hard to keep that color clean, Sheila.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be white. You can get a Smith-built hat. Those are made in Calgary, and those are terrific. They're one of our heritage brands along with the Alberta Boot Company. So,
oh, yeah, I'll need the boots to go along with them.
Mm-hmm.
My big size 13 wide feet. Will they fit into a cowboy boot?
Oh, yes. It's Alberta Boot. They'll make them for you. And if you think your feet are bigger than our big, burly steer wrestlers, I think you've got another thing coming. Anywho, let's keep going. Lynn gives us $5. Love the whole Rebel team. Love David, Sheila, and Justin.
Oh, Justin's got enough love now, folks, I think, okay?
I don't think so. He does put up with a lot, because you have to remember, Justin is also Ezra's producer. And so you've been filling in for Ezra on his show.
Yes.
And we've been covering off the live stream. Plus, he also does your paywall show, Rebel Roundup. So Justin has been deep in the David waters lately. So maybe I think he does need the support and the fans cheering him on a little bit.
Well, undeniably, he is a hard worker, and he is a true trained broadcast professional, folks.
Yeah, there has to be one at the company.
I can't even get the TV to work with the remote.
I know. Okay, Dirty Pretty Me gives us $20. My daughter, 27, is physically disabled and in a chair. ODSP, I don't know the abbreviation there, Ontario Disabled. I'm sorry, I wish I knew the abbreviation there. Keeps sending people to offer, oh my goodness, medical assistance in dying. She's scared. Told me her friends are being pressured to sign up too. She's not palliative and 100% cognitive. This is terrifying. You know what? This is a very timely thing, because on my way down, I have like a 2-hour drive down to Bashaw here where I'm at. And I was listening to Ann and Phelan McAleer, their podcast, and they are talking about exactly this push. They call it euthanasia creep, where, okay, it was, however distasteful it was sold to us as just something in the end of life. We'll consider it a part of palliative care, even though palliative care involves making people comfortable and not offing them. And all of a sudden, it's creeping and it's creeping and it's creeping. Now it's depressed people. Now it's people whose quality of life you don't think is quite as comfortable as your own. And so you are deciding for them, hey, maybe your life isn't worth living. It's the same sort of argument that pro-choicers make when they say stuff like, well, the mother is poor and so the baby's going to grow up poor. And so wouldn't it be better if that baby's never been born? Well, tell that to a person who survived poverty, came out the other side, that their life wasn't worth living. It's the same sort of argument. That's horrible. I'm so sorry to hear that.
That is a horrible story, and of course, the left will dress that up as an act of empathy, Sheila.
Compassion.
And by the way, and the question of the abortion issue, whenever I'm, covering those stories here, the one thing they cannot answer, these pro-abortion cowards, is when I bring up the fact that since the 1970s, I believe, in many nations, I think the toll has been something like 29 million female babies have been aborted simply because of their sex. That's the only reason they were aborted. Yep. Do you support sex-selective abortions? And all they will bark back is, a woman has the right to choose. They will not even touch that question. So they're very selective, whether you're a handicapped person or a female fetus, in terms of who gets the death sentence. That I think that's just disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way that BLM generally doesn't get uptight when you tell them, yeah, but Planned Parenthood is plunking these things purposefully into Black and minority neighborhoods for a reason.
Yeah.
And they can't answer that question, because then they're forced to realize what it's really all been about. That whole eugenics side to this, it never really went away. It was just cloaked in something else. We called it women's rights, but it's still eugenics. Yeah. Sorry, we're off on a tangent here. Noble Canadian, or Tangerine, as David likes to call it. Noble Canadian gives us $5. Justin shout out. There we go. But now the rest of the Rebels need one, maybe a hat icon for David. Sheila, wrestling one. I'm not sad about that. What icons would other rebels have? Well, Kian's would be a puzzle piece, I think. Drea crafting scissors, because I don't think a lot of people know. However, if you pay close attention to the background of Drea's videos, that's her crafting table behind her, and she's like a crafter. And what would Tamara's be? I don't know.
Well,
babies.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was
kids.
trying to say something about babies that wouldn't get me in trouble after the show.
She's got a lot of kids. I think today's her due date for her next one. There's a lot of babies over there.
Mr. Producer says to me, just say nothing. I'm taking his advice.
I can say it. And I think we're all caught up in the super chats. Wait, what would Ezra's be? I know in the Slack channel, every time we talk about Ezra, somebody puts a Red Bull emoji on the comment. So maybe it's a Red Bull emoji. I don't know what his would be.
I think it's the Batman logo, because Ezra does wear superhero T-shirts when he's casual. Yeah. And really, isn't Batman the ultimate superhero? And it's the ultimate superhero because he didn't come from another planet where the sun interacts with him differently, giving him super strength and flying ability. He didn't get bitten by a radioactive spider. See, most of these superheroes become superheroes by accident. But Batman, Bruce Wayne, he's a brilliant billionaire. He uses his money and his brains to become a superhero. I mean, his superpower is wealth and brains. I think that would be, the bat signal would be the perfect icon for Ezra Levent.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that, well, I don't know. You think so? You think that his superhero is the brooding orphan with a sore throat? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Well, what are you saying? You want to give him the Robin signal? I mean, red tunic, green shorts, yellow cape. Oh, say it loud, Robin. I mean, you can't get more flamboyant than that costume, Sheila.
That sounds like something you'd wear on a special David Menzies mission. And then
I did wear it once, actually.
I would have to put the tie posh on it, because I think we were specifically told no more costumes.
That's true. And I think when I wore it in public, somebody said, "Hey, who's that fat Robin?" So that made me retire that costume. That's the other thing about these superhero costumes, Sheila. They don't hide anything. It's skin-tight spandex. You really got to be in shape. Although, thankfully, the costume people are now making the costumes for the males with the built-in six-pack. And so you can kind of fool people, I think. But yes, you know what?
Yes. They're completely fooled, David. Nobody knows that that's not really your six-pack. We've got two more super chats, and then we should move on to our next thing.
Okay.
Viking Insane gives us $5. Red Ensign was turfed for the Maple Leaf, and the removal of our symbols are accelerated. Queen E2 aside, current royals do not represent that heritage anymore. I think we shouldn't use the two awful ones to sort of cancel out the good work the two good ones are doing. That's what I think.
I agree.
I think Kate and William are pretty good royals, especially for the young crop of them. They follow all the rules. They meet all their charitable obligations. They do all their public appearances. I think if the royalty does survive, it will be because of those two. And the
Sheila Gunn Reid for Queen of Alberta. That gets my thumbs up.
I don't know. No. Be a lot of rules involved in that. You know me and rules.
Okay, you're great.
Just in Time gives us $2.79. Proud Boys flag, SWAT team called in Canada. Probably. Dirty Pretty Me, $20. Yes, they say it's about quality and how much they cost to society. Ugh, gross. Her and her trans, also disabled husband live independently in Toronto and have hobbies and a good life. This has devastated her mental health. I bet it has. Who can they talk to make it stop? That's the thing. Like, there's just, this is the end goal. I mean, tell me that it's not eugenics when you are, but it's soft eugenics now, because you're just not snatching these people up and exterminating them. You're convincing them to do it to themselves because they'd be much better off. And don't you know what a burden you are to society? It's truly evil.
Well, Sheila, we should move on to some other topics. I see the next one on the, it's Chrome Artistic Barbering in St. Catharines. Me and Sid the Kid, we went down there on Friday for the latest update. It's essentially Alicia Herter, the owner of Chrome, which is, she transitioned into a film production studio, versus the entire hateful community of St. Catharines, and that's by law enforcement, online trolls, people giving her anonymous death threats, which the cops don't seem to care about. Nothing to see here. This is a single mother, folks, trying to make a living in a salon, and what she's up against from the vocal minority of haters. And I say that because the good news is she's getting thousands of emails and voicemails the world over of supporters. So Alicia, you are not in this alone. Don't let those hating bastards get you down. But anyways, just check out the latest update of this woman who is committing the egregious sin of trying to make a living. Here in St. Catharines, and folks, I'm once again at Chrome Artistic Barbering. I'm with the owner, Alicia Herter. This is our latest update on what has just been a dreadful story about an entrepreneur simply trying to go back to work. As you know, Alicia reimagined her studio, her barbershop that is, as a film production facility, and she originally got the blessing of the city of St. Catharines, but then, well, the real virus in these parts, it's freedom, and the authorities quickly clamped down. And I can tell you, folks, Alicia is now up against the city, Niagara region, the online troll community, the newspaper, the St. Catharines Standard, and even the police themselves, the Niagara Regional Police Force. Just will you hear the aggro this lady is going through. Okay, so Alicia, as I said in the introduction, this all stems from you originally getting permission. We've heard the recording from the City of St. Catharines by law enforcement officer. You were allowed to have a film production studio.
Filming industry part of it is good. Have a nice day.
And then they changed their minds. They decided, no, you can't. But I got to say, before we get into that, I'm really curious because I know in the city of Toronto, there's something like 20 to 25 film productions going on right now. And folks, if you remember, my cameraman Mocha and I, we dropped by last week and this is what we found.
Everybody's in it together. That's it.
Oh, do you really believe that? Because, well, the restaurants and the gyms and the stores, they can't open, but you guys can continue filming. So I don't think everyone's in it together.
Toronto. Well, maybe do your research and learn.
I'm kind of curious. We've been covering the anti-lockdown protests every Saturday, officer, and people are being hauled away in paddy wagons, and yet we see the same lack of social distancing happening here. And the police aren't ticketing these people. Instead, you're protecting them. Why the double standard?
Well, we have a business here. We have an industry. It employs thousands of people. We make a lot of money every year in the film industry. It's a huge business.
So, Alicia, I reached out to the City of St. Catharines. Why was your film production kosher back in January and then suddenly in February it's not? And the spokeswoman, this is what she had to say to me. Our Director of Planning and Building Services, Tammy Kate, offered the following comment as a clarification to your question. In order for a hair salon to be considered a commercial film studio, zoning would have to permit the use, a change of use permit under the building code would be required, and a business license that reflects the film studio use and the appropriate licenses would be obtained from the Film Council of Canada as well as the provincial licensing authority in this regard. As none of these requirements were met, the salon was fined for operating in contravention of provincial regulations. Alicia, how do you make sense of that?
It's really hard to make sense of, especially since this is the very first time I've got a clear definition of a film studio or a performance studio since January. And also, not only that, a commercial production studio, I have a performance going on in my studio that is relevant. It's dependent on the service. What I just heard from you, what I was supposed to apply for, they're not even available. There's no licenses available from the board that they just told you. So I'm going to have to look into that.
Can you imagine that, Sheila? Apply for a license that doesn't even exist. And talk about the double standard yet again. If you are, I don't know, Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or Meryl Streep coming to Hogtown or anywhere else in Ontario, John Tory and all the mayors, they will roll out the red carpet. They love that kind of publicity. As I mentioned, about 25 productions right now in the GTA going on. And yet, when it's little Alicia Herter, nobody's nobody, I guess, in the eyes of the political elite. Oh no, you're not going to figure out a way to legally operate your business. You go on CERB like a good little girl and do as you're told. It is despicable. And I'm telling you, like I said, bylaw is beating up on her, both the city and Niagara Region bylaw. The media, the St. Catharines Standard, what a horrible rag. Grant LaFleche, that reporter, he implied that she was responsible for issuing a death threat to the acting medical health director. It was completely false. I think there's going to be a defamation lawsuit against the Standard about that. Meanwhile, she's getting death threats. She showed me some of the recordings. And when she goes to the police, this single mother just trying to operate a business, we know, we hear the threat, we know who it is, we think, but really it's not like, let's put it this way. St. Catharines, I understand, has the highest percentage of Tim Hortons donut shops in the country. So I guess maybe the police there have other priorities. This stinks, and we are not going to stop, until we get some closure to this story. Here's the perverse irony, Sheila, and then I want you to weigh in with your thoughts. Going back a week ago, St. Catharines and that region went into, I can't even remember the color zone, the Crayola COVID color crayons the politicians use. But the point is, hair salons in St. Catharines are now allowed to open as hair salons, except Alicia's. She's got to come cap in hand and bend the knee to some bylaw tribunal or something and explain to them why she should be back in business and how sorry she is. So she is still closed down while everybody else is operating. It's just despicable.
This whole thing makes me furious because they are now trying to get her. She refused to bend the knee to the government, right? That's what this is all about. She didn't want their handouts, and she said, I don't need your help. I just need you out of my way. And now, for her to be able to reopen, they are making her come begging for permission. They're trying to break her, and it drives me insane because these are the same losers who will put platitudes on their Twitter account and their Facebook account and stupid memes saying, blah, 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 International Women's Day, lift up all women. And here they are using the full force of the government and the anonymity of the internet, by the way. That's you losers who are threatening her. But that's what they're doing. They're using the full force of the government to try to break this strong woman. And they're the same losers who cry about feminism and the patriarchy. Well, I can't think of too many things more patriarchal than trying to break the will of a strong, independent, small businesswoman.
100%. And I mean, maybe if Mr. Producer can look for the clip where one of the death threats is actually uttered by a woman. We think we know who this person is. I'm not going to say until we're absolutely certain, because I don't want to do a Grant LaFleche here and, propagate defamatory fake news. And by the way, speaking of the St. Catharines Standard, after our original video aired about their error, they went online and covertly altered the lead so there's no implication of Alicia Herter issuing a death threat to the chief medical health officer. But Sheila, here's the thing. Was there an apology, a retraction, a correction in the paper edition? Was there something on the opening web page of the St. Catharines Standard? No, you would have to search and know what you were searching for to see this. And I'm telling you, from what I know about media and the law, Mr. LaFleche and Mr. Editor at the St. Catharines Standard, you should get ahead of this story and get very big on a public apology to this woman. It might help mitigate damages for you should this get into a court of law in the future.
Who goes back and rereads an online news story in case there's a change to the story?
Yeah.
People read news stories generally once, and the damage for Alicia is done. That's it. Because people think that she was part and parcel to issuing a death threat, when getting that fact wrong has actually led to Alicia getting very real death threats.
Indeed, Sheila, and I did reach out to Grant LaFleche. The conversation, it's a brief one, is in that video if you want to check it out, folks. And what was so telling was that he just hung up on me. And this is so indicative, folks. Trust me when I tell you this. The mainstream media, they love dishing it out. They love crucifying people. But when you turn the tables on them, when you have them become accountable for their actions, their errors, their slander, oh boy, they don't like it. They go, into turtle mode and hang up the phone on you. What a disgrace, Sheila. Like I said, they can dish it out, but they can't take it.
And they're the first ones to say that we aren't real journalists. They're the first ones to say it. We've got to get through a bunch of super chats.
Okay.
Apparently, I missed a whole pile. And then while you were talking, I got the neatest email press release. It's from the NFA. And I want to say, for me, NFA, I'm thinking National Firearms Association in Canada, right? No, it's the Natural Fibers Alliance. And they're mad because PETA is attacking the NBA over a Canada Goose sponsorship. And again, that's one of those fights where I hope everybody loses, except the people who are using Goose and Coyote products and the people who produce those things. Like, I don't care if PETA is attacking the NBA. I hope that's a battle royale where everybody burns everybody else down.
That you're right. Again, it's aliens versus predator. I mean, like, no matter who wins, we lose. And it's funny. I wonder, because post George Floyd, the NBA allows social justice messaging on their players' jerseys. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, could you imagine, would a player be allowed to denounce Canada Goose and to be pro PETA? I'd love to see that one play out. And the other thing too, folks, is that I know a lot of animal lovers, and when it comes to the issue of PETA, they say, oh, those people are crazy. I mean, they really are.
Excuse me, but as a conservative who believes in upcycling, I'm not a recycler. I think that's a waste of time and energy. But I will turn certain things into other things. For example, I plant potatoes in old tires because it keeps everything contained. I'm perfectly fine with upcycling the mighty serpent chicken into a jacket, because then they're useful and not horrible, and they're not attacking children at the park. Anyway, we've got a ton of super chats to get to. Mike519 gives us $50. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rebel News, your videos are getting hidden. Your new updated videos are hard to find. I do find them, but I've got to look for them. What is going on YouTube, eh? This is wrong. Is anyone else having this problem? Please say yes or no in this chat. Rebel News #1. Hey, there's a way that can help us with this YouTube censorship, and that is if everybody right now, doesn't cost you anything, just go and give us a thumbs up, and that'll put us higher in the YouTube algorithm. It helps people find us. So if you just click the like button on this video and on all our videos, honestly, if you're watching our videos and you like it, or let's just say you don't hate it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, because that'll help other people find us. RL gives us $6.99. Appreciate your hard work. Thank you very much. Roger Neves gives us $4.99. Stay strong, Canada. Never give up on our freedoms from a lost Canadian in Texas. Oh, fun. Just in time, $2.79. If a Proud Boy flag is waved, SWAT will be called in. We already read that one. Hockey Dad, $2. What will cops do now that stay-home orders have expired? Have they expired in Ontario, the stay-home orders?
Well, there is more freedom now, Sheila, which is why we want to go back down to Queen's Park on Saturday morning again and see how the cops react to the anti-lockdown protesters. My advice to those protesters is wave some Tamil Tiger terrorist flags. That might be, your like clove of garlic walking into Dracula's castle for you, but we'll see.
SA gives us $6.99 and says, what do you think about the field hospital being set up outside Toronto's Sunnybrook Hospital? The public health theater? It's like, you don't need a field hospital. Like now for a third wave, first it was just, we've got to flatten the curve. And then a second wave was coming. And now we've got a third wave coming and we've got to set up a field hospital. You have nobody in the ICU, well, not nobody, but I mean, a rounding error of patients in the ICU in Ontario. And they're setting up a field hospital. Like, that's not theater designed to scare people unnecessarily.
Yeah. How about this? How about we open the gyms? Enough of the flattening the curve nonsense. I got to flatten this disgusting stomach, okay? It's been a long winter. I want to get back into the gym.
Pamela Plosky gives us $5 in a super chat. Annalisa S. This is for David, $6.99. I'm running late today. I almost missed the show. Anyway, sending both of you love and a big thank you for being absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you, Annalisa.
Thank you, Annalisa.
Shanna Anhalt gives us $6.99. My daughter asked for the man who laughs a lot on TV. That would be David.
Well, if misery loves company, my very own Lady Menzoid hates my laugh too. So I can't help it. It's natural.
You know what? That's the thing. It's sincere. There are some fake laughs on TV, and yours is not one of them. So you get what you get. We also love you a lot, Sheila. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Lynn gives us $5. If you're going to say we're all in it together, then donate your paychecks to a fund we will distribute evenly to all Canadians. Yeah, everybody saying we're all in this together hasn't lost a penny in wages since this thing began. And actually, they probably got wages and like essential worker top-ups. Yeah,
you have about as much likelihood as observing a Sasquatch flying a flying saucer into Yonge Dundas Square as you do in seeing a politician give up a nickel of salary or benefits during this pandemic. We're all in this together.
I'm going to correct you on that one. Drew Barnes in Alberta, he's a member of the Anti-Lockdown Caucus, but he's also a UCP MLA. In Southern Alberta, he does donate portions of his paycheck to the charity of the day, just to make it even. He wanted the entire UCP caucus and actually all of the MLAs to take a wage rollback in solidarity with the private sector. Naturally, the politicians voted that down, so he decided to do it for himself.
Wow. Well, thank you for that, Sheila. There is always, I guess, the statistical anomaly, as they say. You know, I thought when you said I'm going to correct you, I thought it was going to be some incredible story about a Saskatchewan and a Sasquatch in a flying saucer touching down somewhere. But, oh well, c'est la vie.
Yeah, this is the year I find Sasquatch, but I can't tell anybody if I do find him because what are they going to do? They're going to protect him. And then what? Then we can't drill for oil in these vast tracts of land that will be Sasquatch habitat. If I ever find him, if I ever find a sign, I'm keeping it to myself. No one will ever know. It'll just be the secret between me, God, and Yeti.
Sheila, would you use that little bow and arrow of yours to hunt the Sasquatch if you saw him?
It's not little. It's a compound bow, and it's got like a 55-pound draw weight on my skinny little arms. But no, I'm just going to leave him be. I just want him to know that I know that he's there. Viking Insane gives us $5. Sheila, I share your respect of tradition, but Canada is in dire need of sovereignty. UK is becoming a failed state, and I don't want us dragged down too. We're not going to get dragged down by the UK by being affiliated to them within the Commonwealth. We're going to get dragged down by bad ideas that come from the UK and spread and infect the rest of the Western world, like wokeism and
You know,
cops confiscating knitting needles from old ladies.
You're right. I mean, Sheila, would anything be different in Ottawa, in our country right now, if we severed ties to the royal family? It would still be that man-child Prime Minister Justin Trudeau with his woke decision-making, and we'd still be in a whole lot of misery with or without them, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Smokin gives us $2. This is not a shout-out to Justin. So...
Oh, look at that. That's a new effect.
That's just heartbreaking.
He has a heart?
Jackie G gives us $10. No super chat. Patriot Linda, Toronto, $5. Hospital security assaulted me for mask. I was wearing a bandana. Didn't get my 7-month appointment. I need legal help. David has the USB.
Oh, okay then. You know what? I'm so sorry. Some people at these protests do give me these USB, what do they call them, sticks, I guess? You plug them into a computer. That's what I know. I'm just being so swamped, folks. I don't throw them out. I've got them, but I'll check out, as soon as I can. But thank you for the reminder.
Right. And just to be clear, with Fight the Fines, we are doing our best to fight fines. But we can always help with the legal cases. Actually, the legal cases are like the criminal cases. We're helping with the fines, but sometimes these criminal cases, they're just something that we cannot reach into. Yeah. So just so that everybody's aware.
100%. It's all about fighting the fines. And when it comes to civil action, we're not doing that. And I want to just say this, as someone who's used this system successfully in the past, what you can do, I don't know the rules for all the provinces, but in Ontario, there's nothing stopping you from going for justice, even if it's up against a no frills, a big, corporate conglomerate that thinks that their corporate policy trumps the rule. You can file a lawsuit in small claims court. It costs $100 to file it. Yeah. And you can now, they've increased the amount to $35,000. You'll have to prove your damages. You'll have to make a case, but small claims court is designed for homemade lawyering, as Ezra likes to call it. And what's the worst that can happen? That you're going to, lose your $100. Sometimes these companies, just to keep their name out of the papers, will have a negotiated settlement with you for a negotiated amount, and they make you sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. But hey, you're going to be putting some nice green in your jeans. And as Mr. Producer says, this is by no means legal advice. This is based on personal anecdotes. In 1995, Sheila, I successfully sued the Toronto Blue Jays. Do you know that? With their big Bay Street law firm. It was them versus the little Menzoid. And just like David and Goliath, well, you know how that story ended, folks.
Wow. Yes, please don't take David's legal advice, but yes, this is something that you can do on your own.
Yes, it's anecdotal.
Anecdotal. But yes, I do want to reiterate, it is our job here at Rebel News to fight fines. And so we cannot get involved in a lot of the criminal stuff that comes our way. We'll help where we can. Yeah. We're really not doing any of the civil work. We're helping fight fines. Mike 519 gives us $10. Also, you say Andrea, but I think you mean Alicia Herder here. Is a strong woman. Good job, David. That touched me. I sent her $50. You rebels can make a difference. I loved your compilation. Oh, that's very nice. John Yoga gives us $5. Speaking of Tamil tigers, I'm Tamil, and David reminds me of a comedian in a Tamil movie. Wow.
How does that movie end?
I don't know. Is it a comedy? Melba Toast gives us $5. Hey, I was watching the thumbs up. It was going up, and then it stopped, and then it drops by 10. It's rigged for sure. Just watch it. I will watch that next time we're on the live stream and I have my computer in front of me. I can't really watch this because I'm watching the Skype call and I'm watching the WhatsApp chat. But next time that I'm back in my home studio,
that
that's
is amazing. Wow.
Attention to. Patty Radman gives us $13.99. What is wrong with Canadian systems? I'm a social worker working in health and recently got in trouble for publicly displaying the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Wow. Wow. But you know what? Makes perfect sense because if you display the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, that can draw attention to the fact that so many of them are being broken and stomped on right now.
Maybe you should have displayed, I don't know, the Communist Manifesto. They'd maybe stand back from that one.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're all caught up now. And we're 10 after 11.
Okay, we went back into overtime, and I can't imagine anyone else who would like to be in an overtime situation other than Sheila, the she-devil Gunn Reid. So for Sheila, for Justin, I just want to sign off by saying thank you to our audience. A super special thank you to all the super chatters. You make Rebel News happen, folks, and we are greatly appreciative of that. We'll see you tomorrow on Thursday. In the meantime, stay sane.